Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's exciting live session on at scale, how big tech is shaping the next decade. I'm your host, Rahima Wasti, Marketing Executive at 𝗓𝗪, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest for the evening, none other than our visionary founder, Mr. Philip Cutting. Philip has been at the forefront of technology and innovation, guiding businesses to confidently navigate the digital transformation era. Tonight, we'll delve into a discussion packed with insights on skill development, networking, and career navigation in an increasingly digital world. Philip, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you, Rahima. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations. And the next decade holds some immense potential for individuals and business alike. And I'm so thrilled to share these insights. Hopefully, spark some inspiration tonight. And hopefully, we'll look back in a decade and say that I was at least close.
Great. Let's kick things off by understanding the bigger picture here. I felt big tech companies have been shaping the world for years now. How do you see their role in evolving over the next decade?
Okay, great question. So big tech will continue to influence not only technology, but also social structures as they have been. Economics
Mhm.
and even global politics all are affected by big tech companies. And over the next decade, we'll see more emphasis on AI, quantum computing, sustainability, and ethical innovation, along with the creative and influencer sectors. So companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they're not just shaping
Mhm.
technology, they're actually defining how we live and work for good or bad, right?
Absolutely.
So, however, with this innovation comes that need for robust regulations and um, responsible growth. And I think making sure that we maintain that touch of humanity.
Absolutely, Phil. I believe it's fascinating to see how these companies are embedding themselves into every fact of our lives. From your perspective, what are the key industries that will benefit most from the evolution?
I would say healthcare, education,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
finance. Um,
Mm.
to me, these are the big three key sectors that are poised for massive transformation. Just imagine personalized medicine driven by AI versus the way we currently um have the medical system, right? So right now you get educated through Harvard or whatever whatever you want to go to learn medicine, and you have a traditional process, and it's kind of really for those who have a lot of potential, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of family backing them up. But the education system is going to change, and the ability for people to get tutoring, to learn, to get access and to practice and train, it's totally going to change from what it used to be. And it's a total change in both technology and access to information. And also it's a
Exactly.
change in the way that we're used to getting things done. We I mean, my grandmother,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
never did an email in her life, right? But
Mhm.
she started getting used to Facebook and Instagram
Yeah.
and some of these platforms, right? Even though she never got into that whole technology thing. But can you imagine that somebody who just didn't even want to do anything with a computer, barely watch TV, would still be affected by these social networks and by technology? So, looking where it's going to be in the next decade, I'm looking at how our
Mhm.
children are going to grow up in ways that we never thought was going to be possible. And it's all happening now. It's happening to my children. Their perspective on the world is very different than even what I did when I was with my hands down into technology. AI is just changing the game.
Mhm. And that it definitely is. Now, Phil, let's talk about the workforce. As big tech evolves, so does the demand for skills. What are the must-have skills for individuals looking to stay relevant in this digital age?
Okay, so great question. First, there's technical proficiency. You have to
Yeah.
understand tools like AI, data analytics, cloud computing, and logical thinking, right? Then
Yeah.
there's adaptability, the inner
Mm.
ability to stay healthy, to handle stress, to handle rapid change, and to see maybe the world change under you before you realize it, and still be okay with that.
Mhm.
Uh, it's funny. We used to spend like I remember there's projects I spent like 2 years on, and if
Okay.
nowadays I spent 2 years on any kind of project, by the time I was finished, the whole stack would be totally changed. Uh, the foundation of that stack would be changed, right? React 18 is nothing like React 17 and React 16. So the ability to maintain your bearing and your balance is going to
Mhm.
be something that's critical going forward. And also having that emotional intelligence to realize, hey, if I get a little outdated, it's not a problem because I can catch up, right? Let me focus on what I have to focus on. Don't get too deep into it, be agile, but keep that mindset that, yeah, okay, I can fall behind a little bit. And in a weekend or in a month, I can get caught back up. And it's cool not to chase every kind of win. um Maybe focus
That's
should
true.
be a superpower,
Mhm.
right? I bet there's drugs for that. I'm not gonna I was about to make a joke, but I believe there are drugs for focus. uh la- Sorry. Lastly, don't underestimate communication skills and the
Yeah.
ability to collaborate and to
Mhm.
not just have critical thinking, but to be able to challenge any thought and to make
Okay.
it fun. I should have started get this like the first skill I should have said was make learning fun and make suffering
Mhm.
rewarding. So when you're like with some discomfort, see that and say, okay, cool. This discomfort uh is good because at the other side of this, there's some kind of reward and some kind of growth. It's going to be really fun. So I think this concept and
Yeah.
these skills sets are going to what set people aside in the tech driven fast paced future that we're stepping into. And I know we've said this before,
Yeah.
but it's faster than it's ever been.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true to me. And I feel like that emotional intelligence is also becoming increasingly important these days as much we focus on technology. It's still humans behind the machines as well.
Well said, well said. It's the that human touch that keeps innovation meaningful. uh
Yeah.
if we lose our human center focus,
Yeah.
then what's the point of innovation in the first place, right? We might set AI up
Exactly.
to go research and we've done this, right? We've had systems discover like 1,000 proteins,
Absolutely.
but so what? Doesn't affect humanity in any obvious direct way. It's got to have that human centric mission and purpose to give
Exactly.
it
It would
value.
always have that touch.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, right. So, could you share a practical advice for someone trying to upscale? Where should they begin?
Hmm. So, uh, hmm. I think small but
Mm-hmm.
consistent improvements. I'm such a fan of 1% everyday improvements, and 1% it should be I really think it should be targeted, right? So if you're playing with something,
Mm-hmm.
you're just getting a little bit better at it. That's not the 1% I'm talking about. This is important. This is play, and it has to
Okay.
be there to kind of keep you interested and engaged. This is what hobbies are for. But you should have a focus and a goal, and you should every day get 1% closer to that goal so that over time you create that primary set of skills that set you apart from other people. So without focus, 1% all over the place doesn't get you anywhere. But if you have one skill and you get 1% better at it every day, that compounds
Mm-hmm.
to like 1,500% at the end of the year. So I say, focus is uh small but focused improvement. And I love courses, systems like Coursera. I sometimes go back and forth between Coursera and Udemy. LinkedIn
Uh-huh.
Learning has a lot of great content on there. So I recommend all those three. Those are you can't go wrong with any of those. What I do is I look at the certifications that I'm interested is going to help me in a particular branch or project that I'm working on in the next 6 months, and I start working on those courses. It starts with kind of knowing yourself and making an education plan that you stick with. If you think you're going kind of too far on those goals, step back a little bit and simplify your
Okay.
goals, simplify your targets, and make them shorter term so that you can compound those over time. The If you're not sure what to do, look in your industry or look at your hobbies and see what certifications are in around those communities, and that's going to help you do things that help you stand out. And even, I mean, there's people that say you shouldn't make your hobby your work because then you'll hate it. Make your hobby your work and love it, outgrow it, find another hobby. This is natural. Don't worry about it. You can build a company, you can sell that company right to the next guy that's ready to pick up the reign and go. It's all, the most important thing when you're doing this is doing it in a structured way. I know I said fun
Okay.
5 minutes ago, but I'm saying structured. It's okay. You can have both, right? Just when you're building any kind of project or company, make it not totally self-serving. Try to think how it's going to serve people. And if you do this and use some key processes to manage it, you'll find that it's easy to hand off, sell to people, build value, create those communities. The which kind of brings me to something I don't like, which is this people that build companies just to sell them in a year. Right? You can't build anything in a year.
Exactly. That happens a lot in the software. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I have seen that happening a lot.
Oh, I see it all the time. The guys are like, I'm going to build this app. I'm not even going to get it functional. I'm just going to make the concept. I'm going to sell it and it's going to make billions. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe have that in the back of your head, but don't ever say that to an investor because they're never going to send you money,
Yeah.
right? Build it in a way that if you get lucky, you can sell it in a year, right? Make all those systems, but build it for the long run. Even if you hand it off to somebody, even which selling your company is handing something off, right? That's a handoff. And if you built it well, that
Exactly.
person that you're handing off to, they're going to be successful. The clients will be successful. The users will continue to have that good experience and maybe even have a better experience once you're out of the picture because there'll be a fresh insight.
Well said. And so let's
How's that?
pivot to networking. It was good. So let's pivot to networking, a critical aspect of career growth. Philip, how can professionals build meaningful connections in this increasingly virtual world?
Hmm. So networking has become both easier and harder at the same time. My advice, just be intentional. Use platforms like LinkedIn to connect with people, but don't stop there. Join webinars and attend virtual events and engage in discussions and try to go in real life to some place where you can shake a hand, look somebody in the eye, and say, even if you're not an influencer, you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thank you for creating that. It was great and it inspired me to do this. Right. And maybe you can share
Yeah.
this. And then this is the beginning of your story. Even if you're not very outgoing, you can still go and thank somebody for something they did in your life. And that might be one of the first steps to kind of getting over some shyness. The Hmm, about to run down a rabbit hole. Uh, so I'm gonna since I said it, shyness is a natural thing for all of us, right? Especially a lot of us introverted guys. So there's two things you can do if you're shy. First of all, kind of tell yourself, hey, I'm just going to get over this, right? Because I'm a person, I'm
Okay.
not a shy person, right? Um, so you're a person first, and you're beautiful and valuable, and your opinion matters. So realize that internal value, and go out there and start little by little getting over that inexperience of communicating. There's a lot of courses online that help you kind of learn how to break ice. I don't know if I go kind of like the super macho, you have to pretend to be somebody else. You can totally be yourself and just get a little by little, get outside your comfort box and get out there and network and make some friendships. And you'll find that when you deal with people, especially one-on-one, it's not so hard. It just comes with
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
don't, I think, not to
And it's
define
more fun.
yourself as being a shy person or introvert. You're a beautiful person, hopefully.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right about that. I completely agree. I found that being active in professional groups online, especially in my field, has opened up a lot of opportunities that I could never imagine of. So,
Yeah, exactly.
moving on to
It's a two-way street
yeah,
also, right? When you give value, it comes back around naturally. And that's, I've seen you do this, right? You are very giving. You're open, you don't hold back. When somebody says, "Hey Rahima, what do you think about this?" You're like, here it is, right? You just open up, right? All of a sudden,
oh
you just got to
yeah,
get permission. I love it. Like, oh, you want to know what I think? I'm going to tell you what I think, right? And but you're giving
yeah. At
and
times there is
supportive.
no holding back.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And when you build your core talents, right? You can do
Yeah,
this, and it comes from the heart. Um, where
definitely.
you struggle is if you're being fake and you know you're being fake. So if you feel like you have to be fake, there's two things. One, you either don't kind of realize the value that you have and you're kind of trying to
Mhm.
swim far up water, or two is you just need to kind of learn how to express your ideas, how to listen, and how to get that flow and communication going.
That is absolutely right. I completely agree to that. That we do not have to fake ourselves when we are interacting with other people, and even when we are interacting online. So let's dive deeper into the career navigation. Many of our viewers might be wondering how can they position themselves for role in the big tech companies. What would you advise them?
Okay, so this is always a big challenge, right? We always want to um, either reach as soon as possible or to start ahead
Mhm.
of ourselves and get as high up as possible, right? First, research is key. Understanding a company's mission, values, current projects, and culture
Mhm.
are going to help you tailor your message and your personal skill set before you even go in front of them. So once you have that initial research done, first see how good of a fit you are, see if you still want to be part of that mission, right? Make sure your
Mhm.
vision of this beautiful, great company is still what you want. So do a little bit of research ahead of time. Nothing worse than getting a job that you work so hard for, and then to get there and say to yourself, I have to spend a year or 2 years here before I can quit and move on
Right.
somewhere else that I like, because it's going to look terrible on my resume if I just scoot in now, right? Uh, look it up ahead of time. Try to get that feeling so you can commit more wholeheartedly. Then once you
Yeah,
have that,
that.
tailor your
Mhm.
resume and your LinkedIn profile to highlight
Mhm.
relevant skills, and not just relevant skills. I get so bored when I see a resume that just lists a ton of skills, right? I want to see projects. I want to see why you're a good fit. I want to see some work that you've done, not just how good you are that you've gone through a bunch of Udemy courses, probably at 1,000 miles an hour, and don't remember anything if I try to have that discussion with you, or you could pull some of it out, right? I want to see what you've really done and what you learned from that. And I want to see how you're going to fit into my organization. So some of those projects are going to
Exactly.
tell me way more than anything you'll ever do. So if you don't put projects on your resume, I'm likely not interested. And I'm probably bored to death and may not even finish your resume, right? That's one of the big things. Try to okay.
Great advice. Yeah.
Try real quick some actionable things for resumes. After you've done
Mhm.
your research, you've done a couple little sample projects, or you have projects that you've done yourself. You maybe modified them so that it stands out. Put on your resume some of those projects, and maybe you source it to other work, or maybe it's in a section of individual projects. I put those projects above work experience, and I put a little section that says, "Hey, I did this project. Here's a project that I did personally, and I went back and I modified it based off seeing some of your stuff because I was inspired, or I think it could benefit you, or even better, hey, this is something you have. Here is some of my thoughts on it, and here's a link to my either website or somewhere in a nice easy link that they can click on or go to or type in and probably click on. Probably looking at a PDF, not printing the thing off anymore, right? So that something they can click in, or if they do have to type it in, something they can type in kind of quick. So have your own domain, right? And something, and then put a little video on there walking through the benefit that you're giving them, or like showing the value. Get gifts ahead of time, and it really stands out, right? It's hard to top that. Most people just shoot out resumes, don't even read the description, right? So if you can go and show that you have a little bit of I'm trying to keep this PG-13, caring and concern, then it stands out. If you're looking at resumes, they're so boring, right? So tailor that resume. Tailor your LinkedIn profile, right? Make an article about them. Show them that you're interesting and that you have some thoughts. And even if you're junior, right? If you're junior, go do this. Keep it in your voice, but have a chat, do some back and forth with some chat GPT or something, and say, hey, I want to make this a 10 out of 10 article with this purpose. My purpose is to get a foot into doing an interview to introduce myself, right? And have it role play some of that, so that you don't just give a raw product, but be careful not to let it go outside of your voice and outside of your skill set. Don't try to make yourself look senior if you're junior. It smells funny, right? If you're senior, right, then good luck, because that should be something more significant, and they should be headhunting you. So if you're a senior guy doing sending out resumes, then you're kind of already in a funny position, because you should be getting head chopped. And if you're not, then you need to look at your personal branding, and it's more about your brand and reputation than putting out resumes. So when the more senior guys have that positioning, have that personal branding, and put out some content and some interesting things to make yourself look like more of a thought leader, and of course work on those communication skills. And that's kind of some of the big things that will separate you.
Definitely, that was such a great advice. And for those who may not have a tech background but are interested in transitioning, what would you recommend?
So if you're interested in transitioning and you don't have a tech background, so you want to go from not a manufacturing, but say a sales job, or working at a McDonald's or a Walmart, right? Like hell, Trump worked at McDonald's. So I mean, everybody starts somewhere, right? So the here's what I think. You start by identifying your transferable skills. So for example, if you're in marketing, skills like data analysis and content strategy are increasingly valuable, especially with AI. Anything that can show that you have a critical thought process and that you have some kind of understanding of a field are important. So if you're marketing, this is kind of easier, right? You're kind of going from one tech field to another, and that's a bit of a slight horizontal shift. But if you're in a like you're in food processing, like McDonald's, right? This is a major industry, and having that inside experience is very valuable. So try to get up to that management position as quick as possible, and you should be able to, because the rotation in these companies are fairly quick, right? So since you're already there, take some time, right, and work on your leadership skills. Get that leadership position, make it so that you can say, yeah, I was working at McDonald's, but I was a manager and I worked with the district supervisor or field agents to help bring increased sales or increased enhancement to our services or products, and worked closely with this, and I had a lot of experience with that. Or even if you didn't help make anything better, you say, hey, I got this amazing experience working with technology and seeing how systems work between each other, right? And just this ability to say, hey, I recognize the patterns in this industry is going to help you find work, because everybody works in some industry, right? And there's always demand. And that guy that has that background has a step up, even if he doesn't realize it. especially in a world where it's so easy to learn new skills. And maybe here, coding might be massively reduced from people that don't know how to code, not having to be so much into the code, right, to get started, because it's going to be harder for people to start because we're looking at efficiencies, right? Now a developer in a year, I think a developer is going to have to be able to do 10 times as much in the same amount of time, with also 10 times improvement, right? Or maybe call it 3 times improvement, right? He'll be able to do as much
Yeah.
code output in 1/3 the time, but he'll be able to also make it better because now he's able to produce the code quickly, but his skill set is now in making sure it's producing the way it's supposed to, project management, and having an analytical thought process to communicate between the stakeholders and the creative AI system that's helping them build the system rapidly. I don't think in a year we'll have fully automated systems where you can say, hey, I want to make a Yelp, go ahead and code it for me from start to scratch and compile it, and don't make me think how to run it, right? I don't think we're going to have that, or maybe even I don't know if we'll ever have that. Yeah, I think we will have that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'll be successful if you don't still take the time to dive into it. So it's a challenge, right? So even nowadays, right? If I gave somebody a copy of Yelp, the whole business,
All right.
and said, hey, here's the code, right? Here's a server running it. Go make millions, right? They're going to be
That's
like,
great.
okay, yeah, I got this Yelp, and great, thank you for giving me this code. But what do I do? How do I get businesses to sign up? How do I get clients? How do I drive traffic? Right? It's gonna be a time when we're working more on building that community than just building code, I think.
Absolutely. So that's quite true. I've seen people from creative backgrounds thrive in tech roles, and simply because they brought a unique perspective. And we're gonna move on to the questions that we are getting from our audience in our comment section. Firstly, we have the question: what steps can governments and companies take to collaborate on effective regulation in the tech industry?
Mm, okay. So it's a big question to balance uh the needs, how to say that. We have government because as people we have a need for security and for structure. So the job of government is to create that framework where companies are playing by certain rules, laws are being met, and the expectation of the culture is being satisfied and protecting the people. There's also the need to create certain infrastructure and certain environment to help support businesses and civilians. So there's this is the need of government. Now, to do this, how do they then say, okay, we should stay out of the innovation, right? But we should also encourage growth and protect our citizens. A funny challenge that we have, and thank you for asking that question to get me on this tangent, is China, I think, has 1,000 times more patents than America does for AI because the government is investing in it while the private sector is also investing in it. American government doesn't invest in it, maybe a little bit, but not like China is, right? So should governments be investing in these technologies more, right? Is that part of their role? Hard to say in a capitalist economy if that really makes sense, but it's a consideration, right? How does one society protect itself, and does that mean getting ahead of the curve by research, having government pay into it, or staying out of the way? If our government says, okay, anybody with an AI system needs to do all these hurdles before you can release a product, and it slows down AI in America by 1,000%, right? Which is a big concern, right? Because it wouldn't take much, right? Now, China they're accelerating it by 1,000%, which basically means we'll grow at less than 1% rate compared to China. How do we keep up with that? Where is that balance between safety and not getting left behind dangerously come in a balance? So what the steps that governments have to take to protect their citizens and to help support companies, I think relies in one, making sure we have good infrastructure, making sure we have enough power. One of the biggest problems we have now is in power supply, right? Bill Gates is trying to get a nuclear power plant going so that he can power one of his data centers. Um, Elon Musk, he was thinking ahead because he really focused on creating uh AI that was as resourceful as possible when it comes to power consumption. And I think this is going to be rewarded massively as companies try to step up their AI. Companies can help support the government by having some level of transparency, right? But also by being reasonable in the first place and making sure that they're not taking advantage of people and doing all those things that would cause the government to have to come back and say, yeah, we knew we should have been more strict with you. Now we have to come in with a bigger hammer to the entire industry. So hopefully companies take on the personal responsibility to make sure that there's safeguards as much as possible. And of course, if things do go bad, which sooner or later something's going to go terrible, right? It always does. The question is, how do you handle it? Right? Hopefully it's not, me that this terrible thing happens under, but there's the potential for that. So I believe that regulation has to be kind of in the wind, but I don't want regulation to be used as a hammer, as a bar to innovation, which normally happens, right? So it's we've seen federal agencies really kill the ability for small companies to go out there and to do things that bigger companies would get away with murder for. So we have to have that balance also. But I don't want to handicap companies unless we really have to. Especially when we're looking at that global picture, right? We can't just say, hey, America is the strongest company, we're so smart and pretty, and we should be more regulations, and companies need to be crippled. China is going to eat our soup, right? So realize that we're not the smartest in the world. Even if we are, a little humility goes a long ways. I know I'm the smartest in the world, so because I'm American, that's all there is to it. I'm perfect, and all we Americans are absolutely perfect, except for the ones that happen to go to jail. They made a mistake, of course, and we could probably blame somebody else for that mistake. But on this case, let's maintain some humility and try to work within a reasonable framework and push things faster. I really wish that we would either well, I guess it comes to the question comes to me is China's like 1,000 times patents, are they meaningful patents, or are they just kind of like having a room full of people just filing patents, anything they can think of, and maybe some creative machines in the back just trying to create patents and seeing if they can kind of block innovation, right? I hate to see when innovation is blocked by regulation, right? And patents patents and trademarks, frivolous patents and lawsuits are another way to do this, which is another question. Wow, Fahad, what an amazing question you got me on. Right? This is a societal problem, right? Look at this. Now I'm going to talk about frivolous lawsuits and how that stifles innovation. And I think we right? If you're competing with a company and you want to play dirty, you can sue the hell out of them, right? There's a lot of companies that are just getting started. They have good ideas, and bigger companies come in, or even just bad people come in and start suing them. And of course, they have to defend themselves. They can't focus on the business. This is we saw this. I mean, we saw this. I think we saw this with Trump, where he got a lot of lawsuits against him that were just proven not true or not actionable. Does this make sense? Is it a way it should be? I think we should look at this, right? How can we allow people to sue people to death, essentially?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
wrap it up on that. Maybe I should do a podcast just that.
All right, all right. We're going to note this topic down as well. And the next one is, what is the common mistake people make when transitioning into tech roles, and how can it be avoided?
Okay, so there's a couple mistakes that I see a lot of. One is
Mhm.
one is not getting enough base and creating a project that can show your skill set. To go in and just follow instructions, not really learn, not creating that personal project that shows your passion and shows that you're actually interested and challenges yourself to make sure that you're thinking and learning the skills that you're learning while you're creating this project and while you're building that skill set. Another is focusing on too many things. For example, like we know there's a ton of Python jobs, right? So I'm going to learn Python. Terrible idea. There's a lot of jobs in Python because there's so many different things you can do in Python. And if you try
Mhm.
to chase all of them, you're going to go crazy. You're not going to get enough depth for anybody to hire you. The next thing, a common mistake that I see is that you chase something that your parents wanted you to do and you didn't have a passion for it. So
Exactly.
I see even adults that are like, yeah, I've spent 40 years in this career, to make my mother happy, right? Because my dad said, and this is mostly with immigrants, right? Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I see it's largely with immigrants and sometimes people that broke that initial poverty line from families, right? So they do a
Yeah.
lot to impress their family, and they've kind of lost themselves in there. So you can probably do both and find yourself and start with the when it comes to the parents, start by asking, why is it that you think I should do this? And if they say, well, because it's making a
Mhm.
lot of money, right? And you'll be famous or something like that. Say, okay, cool, but why? Like, why this? Like, there's a lot of ways to make a lot of money. I could work on an oil rig
Mhm.
and make a lot of money. I could rob people and make a lot of money, right? I could sell my kidneys and make a lot of money. Why this, right? What's the reason? And try to nail down to it and see if it's more because they think it's a good fit for you or if it's their dream. So don't chase your parents' dreams. Don't try to um don't feel
Exactly.
like you have to inherit your parents' business or I'm not going to say values. You probably should inherit your family's values. There's a reason for those, but you should question everything and you should understand it. You should make it yours, um, and to see if it really fits. Right. So question things and then see where the perspective is coming from. Those are the big mistakes, and I think this third one is the really biggest mistake because you go into all this work and it's not in your heart, and when it's not in your heart, the work shows.
That was an absolutely beautiful answer. I've got a lot of questions out of those that answer, but we'll leave it to another day. So
Okay.
there's another question coming up here. How should professionals balance specialization in a single domain with the flexibility to adapt to entirely new industries or roles?
Hmm. Let me think for a second. I think you look at the skill this itself and the foundations of that skill and not the title
Mhm.
of that skill as much. So if you're in marketing, right? What is
Mhm.
that skill, right? That skill is storytelling. That skill is in doing research on the market segments. It's data analytics. It's understanding people. It's creating a good story, right? So it's not marketing that you're really is. Marketing is just a label for all these skills. Look at those
Yeah.
skills that you have and understand what they really are and how they reflect to the world, and then look at the horizontal skills around those and see where the edges start to blur and how far out you can go for that blurring to not make sense anymore, right? So push those edges, and in that big circle of skills that you really have, forget about the labels, right? Think about the stories behind it and how that forms the person. And as you start to look at those horizontal and vertical skills, you're going to start seeing other industries that will really have value, that get value from you. And if you say, okay, this skill set over here would really find value for me based off my specialization, then now you're not all of a sudden a specialized thing, right? You're a person with character and value, right? So specialization is great. It helps you create depth in character and in skills, right? And you need to specialize. I highly recommend it, but don't see yourself as a specialized pocket knife, right? See the whole value of yourself. And that's going to help you understand, first of all, that there is flexibility, right? That you have opportunity far exceeding what you thought, and do a little bit of networking to see how that really is. Because when you start talking to people, and don't talk to people that you understand, know, and like, talk to people you don't like. If you want to see how the world really spins, talk to somebody you can just barely stand, right? Don't talk to people you can't stand. It'll probably show, but just enough where you can stand it, right? And with a little bit of garlic and a glass of bourbon afterwards, you can recover from it.
Yeah, great. So, what are the risks of over reliance on certifications or online courses when building to a tech career, and how can we mitigate them?
Hmm. So good question, right? I have a master's degree, right? I have a ton of certifications. I've done so many courses. I've made courses. I've uh, written tech manuals. I've done all this kind of stuff, right? And if you came to me and said, "Hey, Phil, what value would this actually give you in the workplace?" Right? My question isn't my answer is not going to come back and say, "Oh, I can do all these standards and this, and I know the book answers to all these things and how this, technology works." I'm like, that's a great question, right? Tell me about your situation so that I can understand your business challenge or what you're working on and how I can use those skill sets to collaborate with. When you start saying, "Hey, I'm this, this, and this," it's basically a foreign language that's too specific to your own skills. And you might have all the skills that's in another certification that the person's looking for, but he doesn't know what it is because hell, he barely heard of that one certification that he asked you about or that you took. And that big lack of overlap is something that makes me nuts. Almost the only thing that makes me more crazy is somebody who got a master's degree in computer science, like me, but has never done a project, a real project. They went to school, they did their bachelor's project, if there was one, they did their master's project, and it was all very formal and no creativity, no business guidance in there, nothing that really helped anybody. They just did a project to show off their technical skill sets. Do those projects, right? Do those specializations. Those are great, but see how it relates to the world. So my biggest challenge with that is that when you over focus on certifications, you lose the value behind those certifications and what they bring.
Great answer. Great answer to that. And the last question that I'm going to take is: do you think the push for sustainability in big tech is driven more by genuine concern or market pressures? And how can we tell the difference?
Don't know, to be honest. um Elon Musk, he's really pushing for sustainability because he has to. If his mission is to get to Mars, he has to have the sustainable package that makes sense. But I think also
Mhm.
because of the way we handle science in America, we've also been misled to some of the causes of global warming and climate change, right? So because there's been so much pressure and manipulation that I think people are confused on their real values when it comes to this topic. A lot of people really do care, right? I care. Even though I say, I may get you going, like I'm going to say, Rahima, I don't believe there's global warming. Right. And you might say, well, yeah, I mean, look at it. I'm going to say, well, yeah, but here's this and this. I might just be getting your goat going, right? If you really believe in it. But I'd be like, yeah, here's an example where the reason this zone rose temperature 10 degrees is because they put it behind a radiator, the sensor behind a radiator of a truck when they built the new that new repair shop, and they never moved the signal, but they knew it was there, right? The guy knew, but he never moved it for 10 years. So yeah, there's global change right there, right? Or the building got knocked over and now it's straight in the sun most of the day and is backed by glass or concrete. Yeah, there's there's misfit of data when there's over kind of when data and perspective is abused kind of the way it was, it becomes kind of bipolar, right? So there's some people that say, hey, I don't care about it. They're probably exaggerating, right? They're just fed up. I think everybody cares. So do this. I look at it this way. You need to try to leave the world a little better than you did, right? At least don't do anything that's going to have any net negative in that particular category. And if you do that and you don't make anything worse, you're probably making something one or two or many things a little bit better, right? So this increases sustainability. And as you grow a product, I think you can look at more and more and more seriously how you're handling sustainability. But I don't like to see somebody coming in, starting their company and putting that whole sustainability thing on their shoulders when they first have to figure out how to serve the public in reasonable ways. I think most people are going to be reasonable. They're not going to poison all the fish to create, a beautiful app or something like that, right? So when it comes down to it, I think you have to, in your heart, be a really bad person to totally disregard sustainability, right? But I don't know that anybody has to make that their mission. Your mission in business should be to make money. If you're an employee, your value should be to provide value to your clients and to your employer. And if you're trying to save the world, you should make that a separate career. I don't think
Definitely. Definitely, that was a great answer to that question, Philip. As we wrap up, what final advice would you give to those looking to thrive in the next decade of innovation?
Stay curious, stay hungry. The world of big tech, it's ever changing, right? And the most successful people are those that's going to embrace that change with open arms and an open mind, right?
Absolutely.
Be cautious, be excited, have good heart coming into it, build a strong foundation of skills that just keep expanding, like have that growth mindset, and not just the skills, but also to your network. If you make like every month one new friend or help somebody in a slightly meaningful way, right? That's going to help build your experience and your values and your culture, right? And then I don't mean your values, but your human value. If you help somebody, one more person that you weren't going to help before, if you can add that little bit into your schedule, right? Over a year, those are 12 people that you've helped, and maybe you can call back on, or maybe they'll think fondly of you and help encourage you in ways that you never see. A lot of the best things in life come from sources you don't understand and you can't trace back to the source. It's compounding love, right? So build that network and don't shy away from challenges. The bigger challenge you can take on, the more fun you're going to have, right? Yeah, it may hurt if it doesn't go well, but that's okay. Dream big, because those dreams are what get us through the days and through those rough times.
Absolutely. That is incredibly inspiring as well. I'd like to add that while innovation is exciting, it's equally important to stay grounded in your values and maintain the balance. The next decade will be what we make of it, and I believe collaboration and adaptability will be the key. So,
Well said, Rahima.
thank you.
Look at
Thank
I
you so
love that.
much. Thank you so much, Bill, for sharing your insights today. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to follow LinkedIn Line Pro Dev for more sessions like this. Stay curious, stay driven, and we'll see you next time. Take care of yourselves till then.
Ciao, guys.